Thursday, November 14 was yet another busy day on the railway lines in Hamilton, complete with appearances from DFB diesel locomotives on Te Huia and the Northern Explorer, refurbished EF electrics, the ubiquitous DL class, and even 3 members of the classic DC class. The specific DCs in question were 4513 and 4663 on the M52 shunt, while 4818 later appeared on her way back to Glenbrook following a multi-day rail tour to Taranaki, Hawke's Bay, and the Wairarapa. She was accompanied on the tour by DBR 1254 and the GVR's iconic yellow coaches. DC 4663 is notable for being one of only 2 DCs to still run in the MAXX blue livery. The other one is 4951. And those two are effectively unofficial heritage units at this point. MAXX Blue was applied to most of the DCs that hauled commuter services in Auckland with former British Rail Mark II coaches, which were rebuilt as SA coaches or SD cab cars. The locomotive-hauled trains were replaced in the mid-2010s after the suburban network was electrified, and in the years since their replacement, some SA and SD coaches have been refurbished a second time for use on Te Huia, the Capital Connection, or KiwiRail Scenic services. As for DC 4818, she also ran on Auckland suburban services for a while, but did so while carrying the KiwiRail Phase 2 livery, and never received MAXX Blue. This locomotive is now preserved at the Glenbrook Vintage Railway, where she was recently restored to full working order. I was lucky enough to see this locomotive on the 16th of October, when she did a test run to Waharoa. Upon arrival at Frankton station, we found DFB 7335 waiting to propel a set of SR coaches up to Auckland Strand, with the driver in the SRV cab car, of course. This was the 9:30 Te Huia service, one of the extra services added to the schedule back in February. The Thursday and Friday service now consists of 3 trains in each direction instead of the usual 2. The next catch was a late-running train 228 from Palmerston North to Auckland, with DLs 9400 and 9089 on the point, and, quite bizarrely, a former FM guards van in the consist. Here comes DFB 7049 with train 201, the southbound Northern Explorer to Wellington. For around 2 months now, this service has been running with an AKF kitchen coach in the consist as part of the rollout of Scenic Plus. Looking back at the footage, I noticed that 7049's front tail lights were still on, for whatever reason. I don't know what to make of AKF 5967's livery, which differs significantly from the standard livery seen on the rest of the AK series, except the 2 AKP coaches down in the South Island, of course. Come to think of it, I wonder when, or if, an AKP will be added to the Northern Explorer as well. In any case, it was a good thing to see this train with plenty of passengers on board, a sign that the service is still popular, even though it's optimised primarily for tourists. Following unexpectedly closely behind the Northern Explorer was Freight Train 225, with DLs 9671 and 9636 on the point. Then I went over to Platform 2, where I waited for DCs 4513 and 4663 to return from that morning's trip out to railtour. This was the first time I had seen 4663 since the 29th of October 2022, when she was on the tail end of a works train heading up the North Auckland line. Just over an hour after the DCs passed by, we see DFB 7295 arriving with another Te Huia service. This one would have left Auckland Strand at 9:39 am. DFB 7295 and her coaches sat at Platform 1 for around 14 minutes before running empty back to Te Rapa. During that time, EFs 3059 and 3226 passed by with train 390 from Palmerston North. This was the first time I ever saw either of those EFs running in their refurbished condition, and incidentally, I remember seeing both of them at Otorohanga Station on the same day back in September 2006. 3226 was on a northbound freight, while 3059 was on the southbound overlander. It's a pity they don't run EFs on the Northern Explorer. That would be quite an eye-catching sight, especially with the refurbished EFs in their bright blue livery. Later in the afternoon, we went out to Piako, not far east of Morrinsville, to see DC's 4663 and 4513 trundling along the Waitoa branch. This is quite a nice spot for a picnic, watching the occasional rail activity, or just walking amongst the trees. But make sure not to get too close to the track. Upon arrival back at Frankton station, I didn't have to wait long before DL 9112 sped past on her way to Te Awamutu. Coincidentally, we heard the Crowded House song Mean to Me on the radio on our way into Hamilton that morning. Only 4 minutes after DL 9112 passed by, DL 9544 came trundling past the station on her way back from Tauranga with train MP8. "53 minutes later, DL 9481 arrived with train 334 from Mount Maunganui. The signal was initially red, which explains why this lot was crawling, but it changed to yellow as they got closer. Now we see DC's 4513 and 4663 bringing the wagons back from Railtour and Morrinsville. They were only 8 minutes behind DL 9481. Here's DL 9112 returning from Te Awamutu with the M90D shunt, and once again, DSJ 4060 was dead in tow. This time, DC's 4663 and 4513 were going out to Hautapu, but they were so close behind DL 9509 on train 325 that they had to stop at the red signal for a few minutes. It wasn't until 5:50 PM when DC 4818 and DBR 1254 finally arrived on their way back from Palmerston North. Their presence resulted in DFB 7335, who arrives from Auckland Strand at the same time as the excursion, having to use Platform 2, something that Te Huia doesn't normally do. I wasn't expecting to see DC 4818 again so soon after her test run. In any case, and if the number of people I saw getting off the yellow coaches was any indication, the rail tour was a big success.